This is your real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell, and I'm thrilled to come to you today. And I'm grateful that you are listening. And I want to actually complete a little series here. I was reminded recently by just a great man that works for me about a book that has inspired him, and it actually inspired me years ago. And I thought, you know what? I should go back and listen or reread that book because I know it is, man, it's a good one. I mean, over 25 million copies, sold. It was put out in 89. It's just just the insights are timeless, right? And obviously that's what you probably see. It's the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. So I was listening to it again, and I've got the physical copy here. I'm actually in my truck. If you can't see this, I'm sitting in my truck because I was listening, and I wanted to just jump in to start sharing some stuff with you because I feel like it is. It's a great book. It's a great guideline for being effective and moving forward. I've got the hard copy right here. This is the 25th anniversary edition. There's actually a 30th now as well. But if you've not listened to that, or if it's been a long time, I would encourage you to jump back in and go through it again. It is such good stuff, but it is timeless. So, but the book outlines 7 habits, right? And it just transforms the way you think and act, and leading to just greater effectiveness, right? And success in just so many areas of life. These habits are they're not quick fixes, right? Or surface level things, right? That you can just change, but focus on just really fundamental principles of effectiveness and encouraging just deep and lasting transformation. And so, so a quick rundown of those 7 habits are going to be proactive, which I want to jump through to a number of things about today, and then begin with the end in mind. Put first things first. Think win-win. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Well, that's a big one, isn't it? Synergize and sharpen the saw. And I want to jump through just a number of things around each of these over just kind of a quick series here. But again, I encourage you to go back and reread or listen to this book if you have not done that. But I'm going to create a few episodes here that will just outline a number of things that I hope will get just quickly to the point on these habits for you, so you can start taking action today and be more effective, right? I just hope that you'll be able to apply these things right away. We're going to dive into each habit and just some core concepts, principles, applications as well, some ways that I've applied these things that have affected my personal and professional life. But today is we're going to jump into the first habit, which is be proactive. Okay, so be proactive. It's all about taking responsibility for your life, your choices, and your actions. It's the foundation of all the other habits. And just a key principle for achieving success in any endeavor, right? Especially in our world of real estate, but it applies to every industry. And so I want to continue to take control of my circumstances, and I want you to be able to do that as well. And focus on what you can influence, right? And just make intentional decisions that drive your success. So let's dive into habit 1. Let's be proactive. Let's first define what it means to be proactive. And Stephen Covey describes, actually, let me get my book here because I want to read it almost exactly, but proactivity, he describes it as more than just taking initiative, right? It's about taking responsibility. And so responsibility for your own lives, right? So highly proactive people recognize that they are responsible for their choices, and that they have the power, right, to choose their responses to any situation. This is what it's just so crucial. It's such a mindset shift, and we're going to talk about it more, but that you have the choice in how you respond. Maybe things that come at you, right? And before the result happens, right, you have the choice in how you respond to that circumstance, right? It is a choice. And so And so what does it mean to be proactive versus reactive? Simply put, it's, proactive individuals act based on their values, where reactive individuals act based on their feelings or their moods or their circumstances. And when you're proactive, you don't wait for things to happen. My wife was just talking to our kids about this yesterday. I was in the office working. I heard her having a lunch with the kids, and she was talking about, I heard her say, I want us to be doers. And she's heard me say that. And I do. I want us to be doers, right? We don't wait for things to happen. And I want to teach my kids this at a very young age, right? You make things happen. You anticipate potential challenges, and you take steps to address them before they become big problems, right? And so where, I want my kids to like be able to think through this, right? Because reactive people, on the other hand, they're driven by these external events. They tend to blame, right? Point fingers on the environment or other people or conditions for their behavior, right? And you might hear, language like, there's nothing I can do. I've heard that so many times in my life. I've said that at times, right? Or that's just the way I am, right? I've heard people say that so much, right? That's just the way I am. Or they make me so mad, or, right. It's just that mindset, right, suggests just a lack of control and responsibility. Right. But this is major growth to like have this shift in thinking. And so where proactive people, they use language that reflects their sense of responsibility. Right. They say things like, I can choose a different approach. Right. I control my own feelings. Let's look at alternatives. They just think you got to think differently. Right. This type of language, it empowers you to take charge of your life. And focus on what you can influence, right? That's a big part of that. You're like focusing on what you can influence versus focusing on the things that you can't influence, right? And Covey introduces a powerful concept called the circle of influence and the circle of concern that illustrates this point. And the circle of concern includes all the things we care about, right? But have no direct control over. Like the weather or the economy or other people's actions, right? The circle of influence, however, includes things we can do something about, like our own behaviors, attitudes, and reactions. I hear all the time people saying, oh, well, the economy, right? Or the government, or whatever, right? This other person. And it's an excuse that minimizes our lack of taking control of our own responses and actions. And so proactive people, they focus on their time, their energy, their circle of influence, right? The things they can influence. They work on things they can change and have a positive impact on. This focus, it not only makes them more effective, but also it gradually expands their circle of influence, where reactive people, however, tend to focus on their circle of concern. And so, which, it leads to feelings of helplessness and frustration and just like giving up almost, right? It's like, so what are you focusing on right now? And if you could just think through that for a minute, if you're driving in the car and you're listening to this, what are you focusing on? Like before you started listening to this morning, even when you got up, what was your thoughts around, or focusing on when you got out of bed this morning, right? But just being proactive is fundamentally about recognizing that we are the creative force in our own lives, right? You are creating things in your life based on what you focus on. And man, I just try to explain this to my kids all the time. That it's about taking responsibility for our actions, our outcomes, and regardless of the circumstances, right? So this mindset is especially crucial in our industry, right? Really in every industry. It doesn't matter who you are, what you're doing. It's just a crucial mindset. But, in our case, the market, just demands so many things, or maybe investors, they might demand something of you, or just external conditions, right? It can often feel beyond our control, right? But we want to take control. And so when you adopt this proactive approach, you shift from being a victim, right, of circumstances to being the architect of your destiny. so so you stop blaming external factors, right, and start focusing on what you can do to influence your situation positively. So this habit, it just really lays the groundwork for all other habits that we'll discuss in this series, as it empowers you to take control, right, of your life and your success. So I want to continue this discussion, and we're going to talk about a few other things or dive into a number of things. But keep in mind just this crucial distinction between proactive behavior versus reactive behavior, and reflect on how you can apply these principles, right, in your own life and career. Start taking those steps to become more proactive each day. Let's talk about a few examples of how being proactive can be applied to our business, and even an example of how this has worked for me specifically, and in our growth at LifeBridge, and just me personally in such a big way. But I'll just go through a few basic examples and then I'll elaborate on some. But it's just like, why is being proactive so important, right, in real estate and in our business? And the real estate market it's just highly dynamic, right? It's unpredictable at times. There are numerous variables at play, from market trends to economic shifts to changes in our investors' preferences, even, right? And regulatory policies, on and on, right? And in this kind of environment, being reactive or waiting for things to happen, before you respond, it's going to leave you constantly playing catch up, right? Or missing out on opportunities, right? And that's, Sam and I talk about this all the time. It's like, what is the next opportunity? Like, we're trying to be proactive and think through these things. And even in one example right now, I want to speak to our investors, right? And I want to be proactive in seeking information from them. What are they looking for? What's their concerns right now? And get an overall feel of where they're headed, emotionally, right? With their capital, right? And because not only am I figuring out, hey, they're looking for these kinds of opportunities or whatever, I'm learning from them at the same time. They're all reading from different areas, different things that are influencing them and their decisions, right? And I want to learn from them, right? I want to learn why they're thinking the way that they are, because it may be something that I've not thought of, right, most often, right? And I'm learning from them. I'm seeking that, and I'm also seeking, like, why did they invest with us in the first place? What stood out to them? What's standing out to you now? Are you planning to invest more in the future, and why or why not? Right. And so I'm trying to be proactive in that. We're starting some email sequences now, especially if you're an investor, you're going to get this over the next number of months. We have to roll it out in little pieces. Where I'm reaching out to investors to say, hey, I want to talk to you. Please, respond, or, do these times work for you, or schedule a time. While I'm also trying to call investors just to follow up and ask these questions, I'm also, we're also trying to be proactive and reaching out and because I want to learn from our investors. So, but on the other end, being proactive allows you to anticipate changes, right? And that's something that I'm doing just in that one example, but it allows us to prepare for challenges, right? And seize opportunities and before they pass by. But proactive, just real estate investors, professionals are often those who are leading the market rather than following. So we want to set the trends, right, and establish strong networks and build just resilience, right, and adaptable businesses. So what about another example could be market research, right? Just being proactive in real estate and constantly staying informed, right? And not just with our investors, but also just the specific market research that our team is doing. And so this involves just analyzing market trends constantly, right? Studying economic indicators and just keeping an eye on just different shifts, right, that may be happening. And we're not going to know that those shifts are happening unless we're constantly evaluating, right? We're just continually evaluating to say, what's happening here now? What's happening here now? What's happening? And say, oh, wait a minute. This we see this change happening. So it allows us to anticipate things, right? in different markets that we want to be in or want to move in, or current markets that we're in. And it allows us to adjust our strategies, according to these things we're seeing. So if, you may notice an emerging trend because you are being proactive, right, in watching these things, and you're able to position yourself differently to take advantage of new investment opportunities, or before they become mainstream, right? I think about that in different asset classes, right? As different asset classes has kind of surfaced over the last number of years, whether that's mobile home parks or self-storage or multifamily, of course. But that's I think it's been going for a lot longer before. Like, let's say mobile home parks is more of a recent one. I feel like, while they've been owned by local mom and pop owners for so long. And now all of a sudden, there's this, massive groups are coming in, large equity, groups are coming in and buying it all up as fast as possible, or building new parks. Or RV parks is one as well. That's kind of this small thing nobody knew about. And all of a sudden there was this massive boom. And now, there's new, COVID obviously affected that in a big way, right? But there's investors who were looking at that asset class, and we're seeing that coming right before it actually boomed. And that's what we're talking about, being proactive here. So another example that really hit home for me is networking. And proactive, just investors and professionals, they understand the importance of building and maintaining just those strong relationships. So this means not only expanding your network, but also nurturing those connections over time, right? And so by going to events, real estate events, or joining real estate associations, or engaging with your peers on social media, right? Being proactive and reaching out, connecting with others. You can stay informed in a lot of ways by doing that, and about new opportunities, or just gaining insights in ways that you wouldn't otherwise, right? But you're also just building a support system that it's going to help you to navigate challenges in the future, right? And I can look back and see this happening for me personally. As we started the podcast, a daily podcast, right? It made me reach out to lots of people to connect, right? It allowed me to connect with over 2,000 people now, right, on the show. And so it pushed me. I was going to conferences just as hard as I could go, started speaking at conferences, and it pushed me to grow my network in ways I never imagined, right? And that's allowed us to grow quickly, right? So no doubt that is a great example of how the networking component of being proactive in networking, right? So we weren't making any money in the first couple of years, right, of pushing this business, and it was costing me a lot of money to travel and to do the daily podcast. If you're doing a podcast and you know what it costs to produce one show a week, well, imagine 7 of those, right? So massive expenses. But I'm trying to be proactive. I'm meeting people, putting ourselves out there on and on and on. And eventually it does pay off, right? It did move us forward. So I talked about this a little bit, but another example is even anticipating investor needs, right? But it involves, understanding their goals and preferences, pain points. And that's what I'm talking about by reaching out to investors, say, hey, I want to talk to you because I want to learn those things from them. Right. And I want to learn them almost like before they go to express them. Right. Before they're like sharing when they're in pain. Right. I want to learn about what those things are. So, say you're working with an investor that has a large amount of capital that they're looking to invest, and you may want to even be proactive in researching opportunities for them, right? Depending on their criteria or something that fits them. And even present those before they even ask, right? And so, or maybe you're managing properties and you anticipate maintenance needs, but you address them before they become a bigger issue. And by being one step ahead of that, you're demonstrating your value to your investors, or you're building trust, with the management company, or just loyalty altogether. And so before we move on, let's just recap a little bit, right? So some ways you can be proactive. We talked about the market research, staying ahead of trends, and anticipating changes to just make informed decisions, right? We talked about the networking quite a bit because, man, your network, you've heard it, but do you really believe it? Do your actions demonstrate that you believe this, that your network is connected to your net worth? Mine definitely has been. in a massive, massive way. So are you building your network? Are you nurturing relationships? Are you, I mean, we've done some things recently that have just increased my network in a big way and has helped us as a business. And we're able to help so many other people at the same time because of that effort. But it's uncovered, new opportunities. So anyway, yeah. And, are you anticipating client needs, investor needs? Are you understanding those in a way that you can be proactive to build that trust and loyalty? We've talked about that a bunch on the show, that trust and loyalty. And I'm going to keep talking about that because people I feel like they don't really take that in, the value of focusing on the trust and the loyalty component and how you do that. But really honoring that as well, that relationship. So it's so important. So remember to be proactive, right? And it's about taking control of your life, right? Your career or whatever, shaping your success rather than just waiting for it to come mysteriously, right? You're being proactive. You're going after it. So now what about some practical tips, right? This book is so full of just, man, so much practical goodness. I've loved going back through this and I'm looking forward to continuing this short series here. So I'm hopeful that you will do that, or at least you'll listen to this whole series and gain a lot from it. But some practical tips, strategies, like changing your mindset is so difficult, and I feel like that's really when I started to take off, is when I was willing to change the way I thought about a number of things, or at least be open to changing, right, or listening to people that are ahead of me. And so let's discuss how you can shift from that reactive to the proactive mindset, right? The importance of the self-awareness, the personal responsibility, right? Daily practices, and then we'll wrap up, with some other things, but maybe some other examples or whatnot. But so this proactive mindset is shifting from reactive to proactive, right? And it begins with some self-awareness, and so this means you got to recognize your own patterns and patterns of thought. I feel like are first, and patterns of behavior, and understanding just how they influence your actions. Because man, they are influencing your actions. Just man, the patterns of thought, the way you think, right? And then it becomes the what you're doing after that, your behaviors, no doubt about it. But one way to enhance this self-awareness is just through reflection, right? Take some time each day to reflect on some experiences, right? Decisions, interactions. Ask yourself some questions like, how did I respond to challenges today? Right? And what could I have done differently? What could I have done differently that would have had a better outcome, right? Or how could I have thought about that differently? Another crucial element, just the personal responsibility, right? If you're going to be a proactive person, you're going to take ownership, right, of your actions, your outcomes. You're not going to blame external circumstances. You're not going to keep pointing at the government or the economy or whatever it may be, or somebody else, right? So important. For failures or for those things, you're going to learn from those failures, and it's going to ultimately lead to a success, right? You're going to change your mindset, your thinking there. You're not going to keep focusing on pointing and blaming somebody or something else. You're going to ask, what can I do to change the situation? How can I improve? The shift in your perspective, it's going to empower you, right, to take control over your life. Let's do it. Right? Let's do it. And so what about some daily practices? And so, because I want to help you develop this proactive mindset. And one strategy is to start your day with a clear plan, right? Actually have a notepad here, and every morning or even the night before, I'm writing down things that I know I've got to get done that day, some top priority things. And if I don't get it done that day, well, guess what? The next morning I'll rewrite it down again. So it's top of mind, right? It's there. Or maybe it's something I know's not due for a few days even, but hey, I'm already going to have it written down. Then I don't have to keep thinking about it as well. It helps me to think about other things, right? So, identify those most important tasks, right? And focus on those first. So this not only helps you to stay organized, but it just ensures you're directing your energy towards actions that just have the greatest or biggest impact, right? Another key practice is anticipate challenges and prepare for them, right? This means you're thinking ahead, you're identifying potential obstacles before they arise. For example, if you're planning property showing, right, consider what could go wrong, right, and have a contingency plan right in place. So by being prepared, you can handle setbacks more effectively and hopefully maintain some momentum right through that process. So building habits, routines that foster just being proactive, right? It's just essential. One powerful habit is just regular goal setting, right? We all hear about goal setting. We don't do it often enough. And the problem I find too, even for me personally, it's like I may find a time in the year, maybe it's before January 1st, maybe it's some other time, where I'll set some big goals, right? But I don't go back and visit them enough. I don't go back and look at those, remind myself of those, or I'll always, put them up on the wall or on the front of the computer screen or something where I can see them often. And I started journaling. I've journaled for years and years at different times, more than others. But the Elite Journal that Don Winter put out, I love that. It's a because it reminds me of that every day. The Full Focus Planner is also a really good one by Michael Hyatt. I love that one as well. But the key is that you're doing it, right? It's this daily habit. You're reminding yourself of these things. You're being proactive, right? As opposed to just being reactive and letting things happen. No, you're writing those things down every day, right? Writing it down. It doesn't have to be a paragraph. It can just be something really quick, but it's making you think differently. It's making you act differently. So, review that progress regularly, right? And adjust those plans as needed. And so I try to explain that, hey, these goals, this target that you're laying out, it's going to change, right? But by having no target, you're sure to hit it, right? Which means you're going to fail. But by having this target, no, you're going to get halfway there and realize, oh, wait a minute, I need to pivot here just a little bit. And then you're going to hit an even better target eventually, right? But you had a target, and it keeps you focused, keeps your objectives and in your mind, and just helps you stay proactive, right, towards achieving them. So planning, prioritizing tasks, it's fundamental, right, to being proactive. To-do lists, calendars, we talked about a number of those things on the show before, and project management software. We've used different things in that regard over the years, but you got to track these tasks and deadlines and help your team do that as well. Prioritize things based on importance and urgency, and by planning, prioritizing, you ensure you're always working on what matters most. But you got to help your team do that also, right? So, we want to develop this proactive mindset, right? And it involves enhancing self-awareness, taking personal responsibility, right? Building these daily habits that foster this, right? Plan your day, anticipate challenges, set goals, prioritize your tasks, stay ahead to achieve your objectives. Right. So it's about taking charge of your destiny, your success. Let's make things happen. Right. So as we wrap up, let's recap just a little bit here, right, on what we've discussed about this habit of being proactive. Right. So first, we defined what it means to be proactive. It's more than just taking initiative, right? It's about taking responsibility for your life and recognizing that you have the power to choose your responses in any situation. You have the power to choose your response. Okay. You can't always choose what comes at you. You do get in that moment, though, you have the ability to choose your response, right, to that situation. And so, we contrasted this with just that reactive behavior, right? Which is it's driven by the external events and circumstances. So we also discussed the importance of focusing on your circle of influence, right? Those things that you can control and affect, rather than the circle of concern, which includes things outside of your control. So by focusing on what you can influence, you can make a positive impact, right? And expand your influence over time, right? And over your success and your career, your family, your health, all these things. In the real estate context, we explored how being proactive can just significantly benefit your career, right? Your team, your family, but it includes staying informed, right? Whether it's that market research we talked about, or building and maintaining that strong network with your peers or your investors, those things, and just anticipating their needs, right? We talked about practical tips and strategies for developing just that proactive mindset. included, enhancing self-awareness, right? Taking personal responsibility. Boy, that is so difficult. It's so difficult. But taking that personal responsibility, right? I feel like it goes back to some humility as well, right? Having some humility and diving in on that a little bit, that thought process. But planning your day, anticipating challenges, setting goals, prioritizing tasks, right? There's a number of ways to do that. The important part is that you do it. Right. As we look ahead, at another episode or so, I want to dive into habit 2 and beginning with the end in mind. And it's about, envisioning your desired outcomes and setting clear direction for your life and career. And we'll just explore how having that clear vision can guide your actions, right? Decisions, and provide practical strategies as well. So I love just thinking through that. But you got to have the time. You got to set the time aside to do those things. Right. So I just want to thank you as our listener for being here again and again and again. I hope that, if this has inspired you in some way, will you share the show? Will you give us a like? Will you give us a review? But will you tell somebody else about the show? And just, remember the journey to becoming effective starts with taking control of your own actions, right? And choices. And I just encourage you to practice proactivity in your daily lives. Reflect on today's discussion. Right, apply the tips we've shared, whatnot. But don't forget that, you can go to lifebridgecapital.com and learn more about us. You can also go now to whitneysewell.com and learn a lot more about me. You can follow me a lot more on a personal level there. I'm just writing more blogs about just my personal life and being a father and a husband. I want to help men to be amazing fathers and husbands. And not that I have it all figured out, but man, I'm trying to learn, and I want to bring others along with me, and if you're interested in that, go to whitneysewell.com and you can follow me there. I'm going to be writing more blogs and things like that, and even more interviews around some of those things as well. So thank you again for joining us. Please share the show. And I look forward to serving you for years to come. Have a blessed day.